morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are listening to. This is the I Just Be Talking podcast for those of you who are new and are joining in for the first time. We are in season 3. This is episode 2. And I never know what I'm gonna, talk about unless I get it beforehand. So I just hit the record button and whatever comes out. But I know what I'm going to talk about today. And it's interesting how everything unfolded. This past weekend was rough. I mean, one of the roughest weekends I've had in a very long time. And I prayed a prayer 2 years ago. And I asked the Lord to make me a woman of faith. Yeah. Sometimes my prayers are bold and I, get shocked at what comes out of my mouth. So, I try to be mindful of what I say and what I ask for and what I pray for. But the reason behind it was Hebrews, right? 11. I don't remember the particular verse, but in that chapter, without faith it's impossible to please God. And so I wanted to be pleasing to the Lord. And how do you do that? Faith, right? So that's where that came from. That was my heart posture then when I prayed that prayer, to make me a woman of faith and to leave a legacy of faith. Because it's like I wanted to leave something significant behind, but I also wanted it to be something that would, impact the body of Christ and to give God glory. So this was a very rough weekend, mentally. A lot of my attacks, although some have been physical, mostly mental. The battle of the mind, psychological warfare, dreams. That's where I have gotten attacked the most. And so this weekend was very rough. And I still talk to the Lord throughout it all. Throughout the frustration, throughout the not understanding, throughout the confusion, throughout the attack, I'm still talking to the Lord. It's not like I'm not talking to the Lord, because He's the one that has the answer and the solution. And He will reveal whatever it is. And I was trying to piece together the puzzle. I got so used to canceling and binding and just rebuking and, fighting spiritual warfare. I've been so accustomed to it. So I play the audio Bible before I go to sleep sometimes. It's not every day. It's not every night, but where are we at now? We're in Isaiah. We're in Isaiah or Ezekiel. We're in Isaiah. I believe we're in Isaiah. But before Isaiah, this is not in order, because I feel like Psalms and stuff is before then. But anyways, Job is before Isaiah. So I was falling asleep to Job. And it always blows my mind how you catch stuff that, you've read Job before. It's not my first or second time reading Job, but listening to it in the first chapter 1, it talks about Job was perfect. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought there was only one perfect person, and that was Jesus. Apparently Job was also perfect. And it talked about him making sacrifices for his family and his children. And, just atoning for them pretty much to make sure that they were covered and they were good. And I was like, wow, I was meditating on Job being perfect and what that looked like and yada, 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 right? And so that was marinating in my mind. And then I was listening to this minister, Reverend Sam Oye. And he has this prophetic prayer hour. And he does this moment of refreshing. And he had a complete, now people always tell the story of Job and how he gets back what he lost. People always focus on that part. But the revelation that he got was it was rooted in fear. Him doing all those extra sacrifices and atoning for his children was rooted in fear. And when I tell you that just opened the floodgates of revelation to me, and then he was talking about negative patterns. I'm probably mixing both of them together. His prayer hour and the moments of refreshing. But still, he was talking about how it was rooted in fear, and that's why he was doing all these sacrifices, like, because ultimately, there you go, Bella, it wasn't, he didn't trust God, right? God to do his job, right? God. And I was just like, okay, well, there it is, right? So let's go back to faith, right? Without faith, it's impossible to please him. So it looked like it was faith, but it was actually rooted in fear. That was the motivation behind him doing all these sacrifices and doing all these things. And his biggest fears was him losing his family and his children and all those things. And that actually manifested, right? Came forth. And so it was the same with me in my personal life. A lot of my biggest fears, like the things I was terrified that would happen, happened. Yeah, I mean, like, consistently. And I wasn't recognizing that it was rooted in fear. So it was disguised as faith, but the root and the motivation behind it was actually fear. Are you catching this? Are y'all catching this? So fear of not having enough. So then I was working to the point of exhaustion, trying to provide, but it would never have been enough because, number one, I'm not the source. I am not my own provider, and I couldn't do it in my own strength. And it was disguised as me doing my part, right? And relying, right? And trusting God. But I'm out here killing myself, literally, physically, spiritually, and mentally, exhausting myself, trying to make things work, right? Disguising it as faith, but it was ultimately rooted in fear. If I don't do this, then I'm not going to have enough. If I don't do this, guess what, guys? I still didn't have enough. It's not like what I was doing was, it's like it was getting worse. And it's like like I said, the things that I was most afraid of and was most fearful of was actually coming to pass. My God. And my fear of being a burden and taking, right, was actually coming to pass. And it was so deeply embedded and so deeply rooted that I didn't realize that it was happening. I didn't realize until just past this week. Okay, all of the revelation actually came this morning in the shower. The pieces were being put together, but it just came to like, aha, thank you, Lord. Because I've been praying, like, what is it? Show me the root. Like, what is this has rooted in something, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not connecting the dots. There's something I'm missing that I'm not fully grasping. And it took, the pieces were being laid out, and I just got it today as I was taking a shower. I mean, it started in, before that, me and that kitchen boy, it started in the kitchen and it continued into the shower. And I was like, wow, my faith was being disguised. It was actually fear. The source was fear. It wasn't faith. And so I guess this is going to be short. This is, faith over fear. This is what this one is going to be titled. Faith over fear. Or faith disguised as fear. Something like that. I'm going to play on words. So I guess I'm going to throw the question back on you guys. How many things do you have in your life that have been rooted in fear but have been disguised as faith? Because if I'm truly trusting and relying on God as being my source, right, being Jireh, being provider, and he said that he's going to provide, then I can't be the source. And I have to truly rely and trust in him as being and doing what he says he's going to do, whether it looks like it or not. Does that make sense? And so instead of us striving, right, and struggling to do things that God didn't authorize because he wants to do it in a way, I don't know. But I have to trust him to be who he says he is. And so I have to, when I tell you it was so bad, I didn't realize it was that bad. It was so rooted in fear. I would take showers, very short showers. Let me tell you how it disguises itself. Because I didn't know how I was going to pay the water bill. I didn't know how much the water bill was going to be. So in order to diminish the water bill being high, I would take very short showers. I would spend most of the day in the dark because I didn't want to, have a high water bill. And I got so accustomed to living like this, y'all. I grew up like this, right? Why are the lights on? You turn off the lights. All the lights don't need to be on in the house. I got so used to living like this that I'm used to not having the lights on. It's weird for me to just have the lights on all day. Now, obviously, we don't just do things out of, just because. But the root and the reasoning behind me doing it was because of fear of not being able to pay the electric bill. Okay? And not having enough to cover the electric bill. So, in order to diminish, right, I would, unplug everything. Everything didn't need to be plugged in. Mind you, I don't have that many things plugged in because I don't have that much here. But it's just like how many things were actually rooted in fear is wild that I'm just discovering. And so the renewal of the mind and reprogramming, now, you know what I'm saying? I have to train my mind to think differently. I have to have the mind of Christ. I have to not think and not move from a place of fear and not having enough. Because then what is attached to that is not just, it's one root, like one trunk. But what comes from that stems other things, right? There's fear, there's rejection, there's abandonment, there's frustration. There's things that come out of this that are tied to this trunk of fear, this root of fear. It's more of a tree. It then blossomed into a tree. It's getting chopped down now because the fear is not my source and it's not my motivator for doing things. But the Lord opened my eyes and gave me the revelation of what it was. And I'm grateful that it's been exposed and now it shall be dealt with accordingly. But yeah, I'm going to sit and take some more time of like reflection and meditating on whatever else is rooted that was disguised as faith, but actually rooted in fear. And I know I'm probably would be shocked at how many things was actually, wow. I hope this blesses somebody because it has blessed me. And I'm grateful for the, his servants and his vessels that he uses, that, he gives revelation to, and that actually helps us, right? Which is why we're meant to, fivefold was meant for the perfecting of the saints. Once again, he put it in place. We didn't put it in place. He know what he doing. So I'm going to just leave it right there. Faith over fear. Fear disguised as faith. Be blessed, y'all.